Hello there. Welcome in. Yes, I am here, but being out the end of last week, apparently I have forgotten how to make my earbuds work. I am back. Took the kiddos to Philadelphia, by the way, if you are a Philadelphia native. Love your city. Great city. Kids, we had a great time. Impromptu last spur of the moment Green Day concert at Citizens Bank. It was fun. I'll spare you all the details outside of that. If there's enough of an appetite, I'll throw some pictures up on the gram. But I am glad to be back, and I'm glad that you are tuning in today, whether it's on your radio, online at extrasports1300.com, or on the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all. And it will indeed be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the next 3 hours, with one young quarterback in particular taking up much of the conversation today, but other areas will be explored, and I look forward to getting your thoughts on today's topics, whether you want to call or text in those thoughts. 719-247-1313. And just know, when you call, you get to the front of the line. Maybe some incentive there for me to talk to you, have a conversation. But let's get going with the question of the day. Do you BOlieve? And I assure you that that will be one of the last times you ever hear me utter that phrase. Because I don't like it, and I know its derivation. It's from that show that I refuse to watch, even though everyone tells me it's so good, Ted Lasso. I don't watch it. I know that's what it's from. Don't tell me it's not. So, we'll leave that phrase. But that is the question of the day, right? From what you saw yesterday, what do you think about this Bo Nix guy? And look, there will be plenty of time for us to debate what his ceiling is. And in fact, anything that I have said against Bo Nix up until this point is about that ceiling. But that's not really what is most important right now. We'll have that debate for years, perhaps. But it's much more important right now what Bo Nix's floor is. Because as long as the Broncos do right by him, and that manifests itself in a lot of different ways, getting him the requisite weapons, they certainly seem to have the right coaching around him, letting him make mistakes, all those things that perhaps previous regimes did not do with young Broncos quarterbacks. As long as that keeps happening, what we are getting in on right now is the floor of Bo Nix as an NFL quarterback. Yesterday was perhaps the floor. Now, the caveat has to be thrown in, and what makes this weekend's game so fascinating is that he will go up against, presumably, the Packers' best defense. Okay, so that has to be mixed in when we are assessing what you saw from Bo Nix. But it's fine that he didn't go up against the first-team defense of the Indianapolis Colts. It's totally fine. And we can assess what we saw, knowing that he was not going, because when he is inevitably named the starter, and now it's just, will Sean Payton just put an end to all this nonsense after the Packers game. And just name the guy the starters so we can stop pretending that there is an actual competition going on, because there never was. And certainly the way Bo Nix played yesterday does not fly in the face of that. Right? This whole thing was a charade to begin with. And the way he played, as long as he doesn't crater going up against the Packers' best defense, there's nothing that's going to stop him from being the starter, or nothing that should stop him. But if we're seeing Bo Nix's floor, it is so much higher than some of the quarterbacks that have came before him. And you saw that against the Colts. And I went back and looked, and I don't want to be so beholden to a box score, right? Because it's almost more impressive yesterday to watch Bo Nix than to just look at his numbers. But looking at the numbers for a moment, Drew Lock was 7 of 11 for 37 yards in his preseason debut. Underthrew a couple of receivers, overthrew a couple of receivers. Paxton Lynch was 6 of 7 for 74 yards. Looked pretty good, but threw 7 passes. Bo Nix threw 21 passes yesterday. Completed 15 of them for 125 yards and a touchdown. But the reason why he had 21 dropbacks as opposed to Paxton Lynch's 7 or Drew Lock's 11 is because of who Bo Nix is. Bo Nix's floor is higher than Drew Lock's and Paxton Lynch's. He gets more time in his first preseason game because of the 61 collegiate starts. The entire reason why Sean Payton drafted this guy. Sean Payton talked about that game yesterday, wanting to win, right? He had it written down somewhere, win. He wanted to treat that as much as he had to cycle through personnel. He wanted to treat it as much like a regular season game as he could. And in that all so crucial middle 8, right? Last 4 minutes of one half, first 4 minutes of the next half. That turn that Bill Belichick made so famous because his Patriots teams would always score right before the half, and they'd always get the kickoff to start the second half. Troy Calhoun and company at Air Force have that down to a science as well. That stretch of the game, as important as it is, as much as a momentum turner as it can be, that's what Sean Payton gave Bo Nix. He trusted him to operate in that middle 8. That would go a long way to deciding that football game that Sean Payton wanted to win so much. And Bo Nix delivered. Look, there were some rookie things that happened with Bo Nix. Right? Fumbled snap, can't happen. I thought his first couple of throws, he's a little bit off. He couldn't plant on the first one, so it was a little bit short. Second one, he's on the run. Now, if he were, I'm going to say, a normal rookie quarterback, in terms of his experience, he may have gotten one more series and that would have been it. Coaches would have sent him out there, said, let's make it look a little bit better, give him some confidence, and then he's done. Nope, Sean Payton rolled with him through the most crucial stretch of that football game, where the Broncos could take control of that game. And Bo Nix delivered. The biggest thing that stood out to me with Bo Nix, did you notice that every time you could see his eyes, and let's be honest, they replayed a lot of Bo Nix plays so you could see it. His eyes were always up the field. Always. You could watch him going through his progressions. And even if he decided on what he was going to do, whether it's pass or run, he kept his eyes up the field. He did not just make a decision and leave no wiggle room. His predecessor, far too often, and this is what drove Sean Payton crazy, once Russell Wilson got it in his mind that he was going to make some sort of a play, that was it. That was all that was in his head. And his back would turn to the line. The ball would be tucked away. He'd be gone. You knew he was running. With Bo Nix, because he kept his eyes up the field, still gave the illusion, even if he decided he was going to run, that he could get rid of the ball at any time. And in doing that, he took 0 sacks. Which Sean Payton pointed out once again, is kind of important.
Listen, the ball's out. I like the timing, the tempo of when we're releasing it. That was a big issue for us a year ago with the minus plays. We were towards the back half of the league, I think, fourth. So I was pleased with the timing of what we were doing, throwing the ball. That's important.
He has to hold back his giddiness. Because I don't know how Sean Payton couldn't feel quite a bit of vindication watching Bo Nix operate. He looked like, first and foremost, right, when you go into a first preseason game, maybe you whittle down the list, but on the checklist somewhere, somewhere near the top, does he look like he belongs? Does any rookie quarterback look overwhelmed or like a fish out of water? Bo Nix did not do that. He looked like he belonged. He ran the offense. He made the plays, threw it to the receivers that were open. I thought what opened everything up for Bo Nix in that game was the third down conversion to Courtland Sutton. And that was just him. Well, I'll let Bo Nix tell you what that was.
Yeah, that was a big play, big third down conversion there. Court did a good job of making his guy, he kind of fell off and he had a good one-on-one, and he did a good job of being aware of the sideline. And I looked up and he was open, and those are always the good ones when you see an open guy. It's just all about getting it to him at that point, but that was a good conversion.
And then after that is when Bo Nix got going. The touchdown throw to Marvin Mims, that is not an easy throw to make. Bo Nix looked like he belonged, looked like he understood Sean Payton's offense, made good decisions with the football, and led the Broncos on scoring drives almost every drive he was out there. This is about Bo Nix's floor. Is it high enough that he should be the starter week 1? And is it high enough that the Broncos can win more than the 5 games that Vegas has decided is kind of that magic number? At 5.5, I believe, is the over-under in Vegas, at least before yesterday. The first of those two questions, I think Bo Nix, I don't know how more emphatic in the affirmative that Bo Nix could have answered that first question. I want to see him against a first-string defense. That's the next test for him. But here we are again. Bo Nix had another test. And he passed it, as he's passed every test that Sean Payton has given him to this point. So there is no reason to think that there is anything looming between now and early September that will keep Bo Nix from being the starter. And I understand, if you're a Broncos fan, why you may be getting a little bit carried away right now. It was an impressive debut. Not impressive for a rookie, just impressive. That's what you got yesterday from Bo Nix. You'll hear more from Bo Nix a little bit later on his assessment of his day. You'll hear more from Sean Payton. And we'll talk about the other guys in this supposed competition, because maybe there's some jockeying for a different position, not the starter in Denver, but something else. Just getting going on this Monday edition of the show, 719-247-1313. Coming up next, why Kevin Durant doesn't understand what Nikola Jokic means to sports fans in this state. Join us in Pueblo for the Colorado State Fair and Rodeo. It's coming up August 23rd through September 2nd. Free attractions, a carnival, concerts. And oh boy, do they have a great lineup of concerts going down at the Southwest Motors Event Center. The Spinners and the Commodores together. Ludacris, which is my personal favorite and the one I'm most looking forward to. Plus Trace Atkins, the Goo Goo Dolls, and that's not even all of them. It's fun for the whole family in Pueblo, August 23rd through September 2nd. Get your tickets and plan your trip at coloradostatefair.com. I don't know about you, but I think I know you well enough if you're a Nuggets fan. I think I know you well enough to know that you were, in the end, happy that Team USA beat Serbia in the semifinal game. That you marveled at what Steph Curry was able to do, only surpassed by what he did in the gold medal game, which I will talk about coming up in a little bit. And I would be talking about that. I don't know how much I would be talking about Nikola Jokic had it not been for Kevin Durant's late night or early morning tweeting. Because he doesn't get it. If you were on social media, and even if you weren't, you can understand because you live here. You've lived through the Nikola Jokic era. You know that there were quite a few people who were openly rooting for Serbia to beat Team USA. And once the game was over, even though Team USA won, a lot of conversation around these parts was about Nikola Jokic and what he almost did, which is knock off the most vaunted basketball team the world has. Well, that irked Kevin Durant, as most things do. So Kevin Durant says this on social media. To all you Nuggets fans, nobody gives an F, but he wrote out the word, naughty, who y'all lames believe is the best player in the league. Players got major respect for Yoke. We don't worship him like y'all, but but most are in awe of his brilliance. Trolling you cornballs for rooting against us is a part of the game. Deal with it. I don't have an issue with Team USA. To the victors go the spoils. If they want to do the is this your king? Like, if they want to do that, then go right ahead. Right? You won the game. That's fine. And if Steph Curry in particular wants to do that, he is more than welcome to. He certainly earned it with what he did in that game, because without him, we would be talking about Nikola Jokic beating Team USA and Bogdan Bogdanovic. Can't forget about him. Although I do, if Serbian fans are assigning blame here, maybe Bogdan should not do the 3 to the head. I feel like that was kind of the turning point in the basketball game. Yeah, don't do the 3 to the head. But Kevin Durant just doesn't understand. Okay, first of all, no one's talking to you. Or at least the people that you are engaging with on social media aren't even talking to you. The original tweet that Kevin Durant got so riled up about did not at him. It did not at US. It didn't. They weren't talking to him. NBA Twitter was having its own conversation. We weren't looping in Team USA, having our own conversation. And Kevin Durant, as he so often does on social media, felt compelled to put himself in the middle of it because he just can't read a tweet without getting enraged. Nobody was talking to him. We were marveling at what Nikola Jokic is doing. And if he says players don't care, yeah, guess what? We don't care what your opinion is. Again, not involving you in this conversation. The whole Nikola Jokic stuff is about other users on Twitter, other fan bases, and national media pundits. It is not about who the NBA thinks is the best player. We actually, through most sports, don't even care what the players think. Hockey's a great example. What do we put more stock into? The Ted Lindsay Award, that's the MVP as voted on by the players, or the Hart Trophy voted on by the media? It's the Hart Trophy. We actually, when it comes to who's the best, we actually don't need very much input from the players at all. And you might have a problem with that, Kevin Durant, but that's a separate issue. We're directing this at different people, and we don't need your opinion one way or another. Okay? This is about what the last 4 years have been. Okay, the debates that have waged on while you've been in Brooklyn and Phoenix and whatever other NBA city that you have found yourself in. You've been in so many different ones that I can't remember the timeline of when you actually joined Brooklyn and left Golden State. And then when you joined Phoenix. But here's what this conversation is about that Kevin Durant would know very little about. Loyalty. That's what this is about. For the last 4 years, Nikola Jokic has meant everything to Nuggets fans. He has brought this organization multiple MVPs. Nuggets fans have defended him against Philly fans and against Kendrick Perkins. He's brought an organization that many people thought would never win a title. He brought them that title, the first ever. And while he's doing it, he has pledged his loyalty to the city of Denver and the state of Colorado. He did not want to go to a bigger market like the last guy that was a star for the Denver Nuggets that wore the number 15, coincidentally. This was a guy that was even better than Carmelo. That even through his successes, his personal successes with team failures, right? Falling short in the bubble. Without Jamal Murray bowing out to the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns. He stuck by it. He didn't do the Giannis thing and the passive-aggressive type stuff that he learned from LeBron. He loves the city of Denver. He loves being a Denver Nugget. And that means everything, given what that fan base has gone through. So that's been going on the last 4 years. Okay? At the same time, Kevin Durant and his Team USA teammate, LeBron James, have represented in many ways all the complete antithesis of Nikola Jokic. Hopping from team to team. Not showing any loyalty to a city that gives so much love to these athletes. And it is their prerogative. but we don't have to like it. And we can hold up somebody that commits to a city and wants to be a part of the organization long term as what the ideal athlete looks like, instead of somebody that wants to play with his buddies and wants to take a blowtorch to an entire organization on his way out just to get his way. So for the last 4 years, Nikola Jokic has done all of these things. We've defended him. We've had his back. We've gone into these big, nasty arguments about Embiid versus Jokic and why isn't anybody giving Jokic his just due. And I will be the first to admit Nikola Jokic has gotten a healthy amount of respect. Okay, I put down my sword on this a while ago. Every once in a while, got to pick it back up. But I understand that Nikola Jokic, with 3 MVPs, even though it should be 4, has gotten a ton of respect. And the needle has moved in the right direction. Okay? But we went through all that. Nikola Jokic is as revered and beloved as any athlete outside of number 7. And there will come a day very soon where he will supplant John Elway for a vast majority of people in Colorado. Mostly because of age and generation. Every day that goes by, we're further removed from the glory days of John Elway with the Denver Broncos. Same thing with the LeBron and MJ debate. There will come a day where this MJ-LeBron debate will completely swing in LeBron's favor because a younger generation will not understand who Michael Jordan was. Not fully, not the way that you and I do, because we lived through it. It's the same thing with Jokic. Jokic will be, for many younger fans, the most beloved athlete in the history of Colorado sports because of what has happened over the last 4 years. Okay? So all that's going on with Jokic. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant bails on Oklahoma City, then bails on Golden State, then bails on Brooklyn. Okay? Leaves Brooklyn a mess on his way out after he got Steve Nash fired, being the antithesis of what Nikola Jokic has been to the city of Denver, the state of Colorado, and the Nuggets organization. Okay? Kevin Durant is teammates with another guy that has done a lot of stuff to draw the ire of fans around here in LeBron James. And their teammates with the very guy that we have had to battle with Philly fans and national media pundits for years. The debate is still going on. I don't know at this point what's a more asinine debate to have. Whether anybody but Bo Nix should be the week 1 starter for the Denver Broncos, or that there is a world where Joel Embiid is still a better player than Nikola Jokic. But yet people take up that mantle. So 3 of the most high-profile players over the last 4 years have represented everything that Nuggets fans despise. And for 1.5 weeks, we're expected to put all of that to the side and wrap ourselves in an American flag. I'm sorry, it's not that easy. There is one sport in which, one of the few, I should say, because soccer would be the World Cup. And the vast majority of sports we watched over the last couple of weeks, the Olympics are everything. And the most important thing, the way that we view everything is in swimming, in track and field, in fencing, in all of these events is through the Olympics, right? We don't care about the world championships or anything like that as a general public. With men's basketball, it's this weird outlier where we actually care infinitely more about a domestic, shouts to Noah Lyles, a domestic league. Everything and I know I was just having this debate with somebody a little while ago. I'm sorry. You can say that we should care more about the Olympics. We don't. We care infinitely more about the NBA than we do Olympic basketball. It's just the fact of the matter. Okay, so the thing that we care much more about for 4 years, you are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of what we revere, what we root for. And then because and I don't even view it as open. I don't think anybody's rooting against Team USA. And maybe I'm wrong in that. You can let me know, 719-247-1313. I wasn't rooting against Team USA. It's rooting for Nikola Jokic. It's like this weird thing where, yes, it's Team USA, but Nikola Jokic is a Coloradan. Like, he's even more local than Team USA, which is a preposterous thing because he's not. He's Serbian. And the minute his season is over, he's over in Serbia. But for 4 years, the thing that we care infinitely more about has pitted Kevin Durant and LeBron James and Joel Embiid on the opposite side of Colorado sports fans. Forgive us if in one game, it was the way I looked at it, and maybe you let me know if I'm characterizing this properly for you. It's a win-win. What made that game so awesome was that I loved every minute of it. I loved when Serbia was up big. I loved when the U.S. came back. I loved what Jokic did. I loved what Curry did. It was like there's no losers in this game. Of course, I was happy that Team USA won. But yeah, I would have been happy if Nikola Jokic, because did you see the guy celebrating a bronze medal? Could you imagine what he'd be like if he won a gold medal? All of those forces were on that game, and it made it really like awesome, but also kind of awkward and weird. Like, trust me, Nuggets fans acknowledge that it's a little bit weird that they are getting more excited about what Serbia is doing in the United States. But I think for most people, it's not an anti-Team USA sentiment. It's just saying, if it's Nikola Jokic, if it's our guy against you, yeah, we're going to be a little torn. We may get a little bit more excited for what Nikola Jokic does. Kevin Durant doesn't understand that because at the heart of it is loyalty. And he may say our loyalties are misplaced, but I actually don't want to take any advice on loyalty from Kevin Durant because Team USA is about the only team that he is committed long-term to playing for. So the last guy that should be getting on social media and chastising Nuggets fans and saying that we don't give a bleep and calling people lames is Kevin Durant. And he was one of the guys that I think a lot of Colorado fans liked, right? When he was 8 of 8 or 8 of 9, and it was brilliant. We wanted success for Team USA. Maybe we're a little bit happier that Steph Curry ended up being the hero and not LeBron or KD or Joel Embiid. But it's just the dynamic with Nikola Jokic is unlike anything else. And that is rooted deep within this fan base over many years. And to chastise them for not putting that away for one game because you said so, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it, but I don't expect Kevin Durant to know the first thing about loyalty. That's what that was about. It's not anti-USA. It's not anti-Team USA. It's pro-Jokic. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on that. Now we can get into what Steph did. I was going to talk about what Steph did, but Kevin Durant decided, because he just can't help himself, decided to take to social media to be ultra sensitive about things. So now we could talk about Steph Curry and the other events that we will ultimately remember from these Paris Olympics. The Olympics have wrapped up, and I would say all in all, pretty good. Certainly from Team USA's perspective, they ended up tying China for the most gold medals, but they waxed everybody when it comes to the total medal count. We had plenty of Colorado athletes, whether they were born here, grew up here, trained here, lived here, that are bringing gold medals and silver and bronze back to Colorado and Colorado Springs. It was a really good Olympics. I certainly think, without equivocation, it was better than the Tokyo Games. And I think really I have to think back to like Atlanta, maybe for a more memorable, or at least the moment that I feel like there are more moments from this Olympics that I am going to remember than quite a few. I mean, London and Sydney provided theirs, but man, this had a lot of really good moments. And look, some of it is that, covering and talking about it makes it stick in my mind more than maybe just watching it as a kid. But I try to narrow down the 5 moments that I'll take away more than any others. And there's a lot. I mean, it was very difficult for me to leave the Australian breakdancer off of my list. I mean, fair is fair. What athlete do you think has more staying power out of these Olympics? Anybody but the Australian breakdancer or the Australian breakdancer. So it was very difficult for me to leave the Australian breakdancer off of the Olympics, but I don't know that Paris would love people remembering her as the indelible image of their Olympiad. So here's the 5 that I have. Number 5, I have Kiefer versus Scruggs. And I'll admit that this was probably not a moment that a lot of people will take away, that will remember. I just got really into the fencing. It happens every Olympics. I get into one sport and I'm just like in it. And I'm love every minute of it. And in fencing, it felt like I was watching something special and something that I will take into LA in 2028. Lee Kiefer is the reigning gold medalist in fencing. Okay? No doubt she was going to make it to the gold medal match. It would take a colossal upset, right? Because she's that good. And she's also what we think of when we think of an Olympian. She's a med student. And she's going back to a pretty remarkable life, going to become a doctor, but a normal life in a lot of ways, as opposed to, Simone Biles and Steph Curry and some of these other Olympians that's their sport is their identity. Their sport is who they are at all times. That's not the case for people in fencing. So she makes it to the gold medal match. Lauren Scruggs is the hot new thing in fencing. She is an NCAA champion at Harvard, because of course Harvard. And she goes on this Cinderella run, knocks off the reigning world champion to meet Lee Kiefer in the final. And while it was pretty much a beatdown, Lee Kiefer was like, you have a bright future in this sport, but my time is now. She dominated her. But to see U.S. versus U.S., and you saw this on a few occasions, right? The United States versus the United States. How cool is that? How is that for American exceptionalism? When the U.S. is meeting the U.S. for a gold medal. Sorry, every other country. This is our party. So certainly I'll be even more invested in the sport of fencing when LA rolls around in 4 years. At number 4, Cole Hawker in the 1,500 meters. We want an upset. So many, let's be real, so many of these sports, we kind of know the outcome. We kind of know who's going to win. Right? If you're in a race with Sydney McLaughlin, sorry, you're not winning. But every once in a while, we get that shocker. And that was Cole Hawker for Team USA upsetting not only the reigning Olympic champion, but the reigning world champion as well, and beat out the other guy who was on the podium in Tokyo. So all 3 medalists from Tokyo were in that field. One of them, the reigning Olympic champion, one of them, the reigning world champion. And he beat them all. In the late push that he made, he almost passed them earlier. And the leading guy, I'm going to butcher his name, and I apologize, Inga Brigsten, wouldn't let him go by. And he kind of gave him a little shove, but he fell back. And you're like, oh no. And then he found another route and just with a late kick, just ran past everybody in order to win an event that we don't win a lot. So Cole Hawker was one of those for me. And his late push would be the moment for me. And staying with the 1,500 meters, but this time in the pool, how about Katie Ledecky in that race? Now, it wasn't the race that ultimately made her the most decorated U.S. female Olympian of all time. But it encapsulated her dominance. And the image of her being the only swimmer on my screen for like the second half of that race. No one is even close to her. I saw a video yesterday on social media just of the finish line and just watching Katie Ledecky chilling. Take off the goggles, take off the swim cap, take a deep breath. She got her wind back. She's looking around. She could have had a sandwich before anybody else even entered the screen. That moment was fantastic. And I know Simone Biles is the bigger star. I know Simone Biles is the GOAT. But when you're talking about the Olympics, I mean, Katie Ledecky, nobody's more decorated than her when it comes to an American female Olympian. In that 1,500 meters where she just destroyed everybody was pretty remarkable. At number 2, of course, it was Mallory Swanson who got the goal on Saturday. Of course. The girl who growing up in Highlands Ranch wrote in her yearbook that her goal was to become a gold medal winner in soccer. And she's the one that scores the goal. I mean, come on now. And she's from Colorado. Now, the earlier match against Germany was what told me, yes, we are witnessing the next great American soccer stars with Trinity Rodman, Mallory Swanson, and Sophia Smith. That's when I knew. But the moment of Mallory Swanson scoring that goal that ultimately held up as the one to give the U.S. gold after she was not in the last Olympics, that was awesome. But at number 1, I don't know how you can go against Steph. That golden dagger, by the way, Noah Eagle, thank you for that line. The golden dagger, that was so good. Steph Curry, you know what the semifinal and the final reminded me of? You know, LeBron sucks all the air out of the room when it comes to greatness, right? He's the greatest player of his generation. Certainly, he's arguably the greatest of all time. And then every once in a while, and I liken it to when Steph Curry took the Warriors to their most recent title. Every once in a while, Steph Curry pops up and people go, my God, Steph Curry is amazing. We don't talk about Steph Curry enough. And I felt that way in the game against Serbia and certainly the gold medal game, where he's hitting shots over Wembanyama and, of course, hitting it over two French defenders. We don't talk about Steph enough because everything I just got done laying out why Nuggets fans were a little torn when it comes to that semifinal. Steph Curry is actually far closer and is on the same end of the spectrum as Nikola Jokic. The guy has committed his entire career to the Warriors, and he's put up with nonsense from Draymond Green and moping from Klay Thompson and botched moves and Kevin Durant leaving, and he stayed the whole time, committed to that team. He's everything that's right about basketball. And he just pops up and you go, holy crap, why are we not talking about this guy more? And that shot he took, I'm not saying that it's the greatest shot in the history of basketball. That's too much. That's prisoner of the moment. But there is a decent chance that is what I remember Steph Curry for, was that shot. And it was vintage Steph Curry. That's the moment. Certainly that'll be the moment I remember these Olympics for. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, hear from Bo Nix and Sean Payton on Nix's preseason debut. Welcome back or in Drive Time Sports on a Monday. Ryan Kaufman with you. A reminder, you can watch the show on a daily basis as long as you follow us on our social media platform. We'd love for you to follow us on all of them. But anyone will do. Facebook, Instagram, X, or YouTube. Just do that little fun @ XTRA Sports 1300, and you'll be able to watch this show. Kind of push through. Leave it to me to be in a little bit of a rush, but also be late. I'll go back through the list of the 5 moments because I do want to have more discussion now that the Olympics are over. And let's not forget that the Paralympics are coming up, and the stories of these athletes are unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'll be locked into the Paralympics as well. But with the Olympics being over, time to kind of take a step back and look. To me, Steph's shot at the end of that gold medal game is going to be the moment that is seared into my brain. There are others, Katie Ledecky, Mallory Swanson, but Steph's shot to me And yes, he was robbed. He was robbed of the MVP. I didn't even know they gave out an MVP. But yeah, Steph with what he did. I get LeBron was going well and doing a lot. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from LeBron, but Steph Curry just went so vintage Steph Curry that I have to give it to him. I have to give it to him. Without that first quarter against Serbia, where would the U.S. be? And then they needed him to come back in the fourth quarter. What he did in the first quarter still wasn't enough. And he played the hero in the fourth and then down the stretch, and it wasn't just that shot. It was the shot over Wemby, and it was just amazing. Just amazing. And that's what we got in spades over in Paris. These just amazing moments of the best athletes in the world, and it's why you love the Olympics. So take your thoughts on the Olympics, 719-247-1313. Broad subject, but take it in any direction that you would like. So Bo Nix, yeah, said to start the show, right now it's about his floor, not his ceiling. His ceiling is a question for a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And that's where I've said, I don't know that Bo Nix has a ceiling. Like, let's just make the obvious comparison of Drew Brees. I don't know that he has that. But that's not what right now is about. Right now is about his floor. And his floor is pretty high. To the point that that's probably the most impressive debut I've seen from a Broncos quarterback in quite some time. Bo Nix felt right at home. I guess no surprise given the way he played facing an NFL defense.
I could tell it was a little bit faster. It was definitely more professional. I mean, the guys are in the right spots. They're disguising. They're doing well. They're where they're supposed to be. But, I felt very, calm and relaxed back there. It was just a game. They were still in cover 3 and quarters. And, man, I mean, it's the same defense. And so you just got to figure out which one they're in and then execute the play that's called. But I thought we did a great job with our play calls today. We stayed in rhythm. We ran the ball efficiently, and that's always nice. And so, overall, it was a very productive day.
I didn't hear a specific word that I expect to hear from a rookie quarterback. Let me play again just to double check.
I could tell it was a little bit faster. It was definitely more professional. I mean, the guys are in the right spots. They're just.
He did say it. Faster. Because that's the thing that you always hear is the game is so fast, and that's what they have to catch up to. But even though he acknowledged it was faster, he still went on to say, it's football and just it was faster, but he was comfortable in it. Right? Once he completed that pass to Cortland Sutton, I think maybe that's where it slowed down for him. But he just comfortable. That's the word I would use. He looked comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. Look, I'm telling you, I would not be sitting here today if he did not play well and say Bo Nix is a bust. It is the preseason, and we're trying to keep the conversation on the rails and within the right parameters. Okay, and this is another step in Bo Nix's career. I understand where Broncos fans might want to get a little bit carried away because, my God, you have been put through the ringer when it comes to quarterback play over the last 6-7 years. So I don't blame you. I'm trying not to focus on where I think Bo Nix ends up and just focus on where he is. And where he is an exciting place. He looked comfortable. He looked like he understood it, understood the assignment, was making the right reads. And this cannot be harped on enough. The guy did not get sacked. And Bo Nix knows how important it is to not take sacks.
It's really important not to take sacks. It's all about knowing where your outlets are, knowing when you're hot, knowing, having a good feel for the pocket, and it's just being on time, being in rhythm. And, if your 1 or 2's not there, getting to 3 in a quick manner. And I always say, I feel like I can take a 3 hitch and throw and get the ball out without them physically being able to get to me. I think it's all about a quarterback's timing, and offensive line did a great job today keeping us up. And they're going to continue to work to master picking up blitzes and making sure that we're on the same page of protections. But all that is work throughout the week. But it was good to get out there in a real game and fill that pocket. And, like we said, just get the ball out in time. And usually you can avoid sacks.
It's also matter of fact for him, isn't it? And look, and I'll talk about Stidham and Zach Wilson a little bit later. Let's be fair. None of these quarterbacks took sacks. None of them. The other storyline or the other thought train that I'm on, parallel to how good Bo Nix looked yesterday, was, my God, how did Russell Wilson, why was he so bad at this? Sean Payton got Jared Stidham off the bench to play at about the same level as Russell Wilson. It was a negligible difference between Russ to Jared Stidham. And in his first preseason game was Stidham, Zach Wilson, who they found on the street, kind of, orphan dog and all that, and a rookie, and they all look good. And I don't mean that to detract from Bo Nix, because obviously he's in a much different situation than Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham. You could be impressed with what you saw from Bo Nix and then look at the other two quarterbacks and say, my God, how is Russell Wilson so bad at this? Like, Sean Payton can make everybody look good. And I suppose to a degree, he did make Russell Wilson look good. But like, all three of these, not a single one of them took a sack. Every one of them moved the ball. The interception for Jared Stidham, not his fault at all. Like, all three were good. And I'm just thinking, obviously Russell Wilson is the example, and I didn't watch as many Saints games as some other people, but it's like, I don't know how a quarterback can look bad in this offense. If you just do what Sean Payton tells you to do, you're going to look good. That's one of my big takeaways. Now, why it's exciting with Bo Nix as opposed to the other two guys is that there's more. Right? That ceiling again. I know he's not at his ceiling. How much higher is his ceiling? We don't know, but he has more. I think Zach Wilson, as well as he played, I think he's, unfortunately, and this could be attributed to the Jets, I think he's too far gone. You saw a very conservative game plan with Zach Wilson. They were protecting a lead, so that any quarterback in that situation would have been conservative. My worry with Zach Wilson is when he's asked to push the ball downfield, make a play. What's he going to do then? But all these quarterbacks, you go, okay. Jared Stidham, not bad. Bo Nix, whoa. Zach Wilson, really? And look, we complicate football. It's the sport that we complicate more than anything else. No other sport do we make as complicated. Like we don't, it's almost at times a different language. Right? And I genuinely feel like some people that are in the football media intentionally use words to make themselves seem smart. Right? I talk about football in this way, use all these big football words. Every sport is pretty simple when you boil it down. Right? Just go to what matters. And this whole premise of Sean Payton's offense, don't get sacked and you'll be okay. And you already see that the offensive line, any thought you had, well, how many of the sacks last year were on the line? Maybe none. Maybe none. I'm at the point now where Russell Wilson may have been directly responsible for every single sack the Broncos conceded last year. Don't get sacked. And make the play that I give you. It's part of why Sean Payton's a wee bit of an egomaniac. But I mean, the guy gets results. And you saw 3 quarterbacks that trusted their eyes, didn't take sacks, and good things happened to all of them. If we knew that this wasn't a sham and a farce in terms of a quarterback competition, that this is not a competition, it's Bo Nix's job, unless something disastrous happens. If it were an actual quarterback competition, you'd be sitting here saying, yeah, I'm most impressed with Bo Nix, but my gosh, neither of these other 2 guys are out of the running yet. But we know it's not a competition. It's about getting Bo Nix ready. And Bo Nix looked as ready as anybody could be for his first preseason game. Do you think there's any reason that he's going to look any less ready for his first regular season game? Because that's what this is right now. Little benchmarks along the way to get us to Seattle. Yesterday was another benchmark. It was a big one. And Bo Nix cleared it. And don't let anybody tell you that preseason games don't matter when it comes to evaluating talent. Here, take it from Sean Payton himself.
It's probably the most important part of the evaluation, these games and then the scrimmages. There's certain settings that you get even a little bit more information on. And I thought all 3 of them handled the settings well. I think their decisions for the most part were good.
Yeah. All 3 of them look good, but the one you wanted to see look good was Bo Nix. You'd be all right if Jarrett Stidham didn't look great. You'd be okay if Zach Wilson looked like the Jets version of Zach Wilson, but Bo Nix had to look solid. And I even think and maybe that's playing into some of the conversation today. I had kind of pretty high expectations for him. I thought he looked pretty good. Maybe some people lowered the bar to make sure that they weren't going to be out on Bo Nix after one preseason game. I'm sure there's some of that. But I don't know what height you had to set the bar to not be impressed with Bo Nix in his debut. Preseason debut against second stringers, yeah, I get that. That's why this week against Green Bay, there's even more to it now. Because he's going to start and he's going to go up against a first-team defense and he's going to have to follow up what he did yesterday. But if you take it in a vacuum, pretty impressive. Kind of see why Sean Payton likes him so much. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on Bo Nix's big debut. Coming up next, I was out on Friday, so I didn't get a chance to really jump into this topic the day that it happened, but it's certainly still in the consciousness around here. What the heck was that from Deion Sanders last week? Talk about that press conference next. Welcome back, Drive Time Sports. Next segment will be open for your texts and calls, 719-247-1313. So hang tight. If you send in a text or you're waiting to get in with the phone call, next segment we'll open it up because we've covered a lot of ground here. And given what happened yesterday with Bo Nix, I do very much want to get the pulse of Broncos country. But if you allow me, I got to play a little bit of catch up as I was in Philadelphia with my family the end of last week, but rest assured, I saw plenty from Deion Sanders' press conference. When you are surrounded by fanboys, by borderline sycophants, when you have such a huge platform that you can push out whatever narrative you want via your YouTube channel, and it will be consumed by hundreds of thousands of people, and many of those people will accept it as the truth. And I'm not trying to, we don't even need to go into that report from Athlon Sports or anything. That's not what this is about. The culture inside the CU locker room. That's not what this is about. But and I've seen it. But until I actually sat in those rooms in Boulder, I don't think I have ever been in an atmosphere quite like a Deion Sanders press conference. Because it's not just the way that he talks or the great one-liners he throws out. It's the people that are there covering him. Like, this was an actual question asked of him the other day.
And thank God I had Aflac. All right. And, no, I'm serious.
That's a good one.
You're an ambassador for him, a spokesman
Thank you.
for him. How important?
People are thanking Deion Sanders in a press conference, thanking him for being a pitch man for Aflac. And because they're such big fans of his, they use Aflac and it came in handy. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that gentleman got the coverage he needed. I'm not trying to make light of it, but is that could that be an email or a tweet or something? You're going to take your press conference time to thank him for being a pitch man for Aflac? And that kind of stuff happens almost every time I was in there. And it's such an incredible dynamic that I have never been a part of. And most of it is positive. Right? I enjoy a Deion Sanders press conference. But the turn that this last week took, it's not good. And I feel like it's when you're surrounded by so many people who are falling over themselves to praise you, to preach the gospel as you preach it to them, that when there is someone who would dare criticize, would report on something, or that would be even loosely affiliated with someone who did those kind of things, for Deion Sanders to think that what he did, and I'm not talking about Sean Keeler. Okay, even Sean Keeler will tell you that he kind of had it coming. And he should have had a better response, a better retort to Deion Sanders. Calmness. They do this. They stir the pot, right? They come at it from a vantage point of how can I be critical? Like, I don't even think his interaction with Sean Keeler was that bad. But it was after this exchange he has with someone from CBS in Denver.
Eric Christensen with CBS Sports Colorado.
CBS,
Tyler,
I'm not doing nothing with CBS. Next question.
Joe Rigo, Mile High
Ain't got nothing
Sports
to do with
Vegas.
you. It's above that. Ain't got nothing to do with you. I got love for you. I appreciate you, respect you. Ain't got nothing to do with you. They know what they did.
I'm here in Denver, not national.
You are who you are. CBS is CBS.
All right.
Joe
Ain't got
Rico, my
nothing to
last
do with
sport.
you. I respect you. That's why I told you that. I'm looking you in the eye as a man. I respect you. I got love for you. But what they did was foul.
But you don't respect him enough to answer a question. You don't respect him enough to not embarrass him. And Eric Christensen, I don't really know the guy. He's an adult. He's been in the he's had a long career. Like, I'm not trying to, protect him against big bad Deion Sanders. But he says, I respect you. I have love for you. Like, then answer his question while still making your point about CBS. And people didn't even understand what he was pushing back against. This is how ridiculous it is. People thought that Deion Sanders was lashing out over the fact that he was ranked near the bottom of CBSSports.com's list of the coaches in the Big 12, which would have been even more preposterous. I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about their reporting on Shiloh and his bankruptcy case. And sure, maybe he feels like if it was Shiloh Jones and not Shiloh Sanders, that CBS Sports wouldn't feel compelled to print anything about a young man that is going through what Shiloh Sanders is reportedly going through. I mean, it seemed like pretty above board reporting. There was not a ton of hearsay and conjecture. They had sources. I just think he doesn't like it because it's his son. Which, okay. But to shut down somebody, and the reporter even makes the distinction. Like, we're not affiliated with them. In fact, CBS hosts his coach's show. If anything, CBS4, and forget CBSSports.com, CBS4 in Denver is one of the more friendly media outlets to Deion Sanders. They're happy to push Deion Sanders' agenda. They're as friendly as any television station up there when it comes to their covering of Deion Sanders. And he's going to take out his frustrations on CBSSports.com on this guy? A partner of that program? A partner of Deion Sanders? I'm not answering your question. Well, you don't respect him then. Like, what did I watch? And that came after the whole Sean Keeler thing, where he basically did what Michael Scott did to Toby in that one Office episode. Like, why are you the way that you are? Like, that's what Deion Sanders did to Sean Keeler, the columnist for the Denver Post. But I understand that. Like, I mean, he probably took it a bit too far and, again, refused to answer questions from Sean Keeler until Sean Keeler gave the psychology behind why he's so critical of that program. This is not a good look. Okay, I understand that Deion Sanders is very divisive. And there are very few people that live in the gray area. You either think that this guy is God's gift to college football coaching, or you think that he is a snake oil salesman. I understand that. But last year, I thought that Deion Sanders handled it better. He didn't go after anybody. He didn't refuse to answer questions. He started some playful banter with Sean Keeler last year, but he never got defensive, never got combative. it's a problem when you start shutting off or trying to shut down people in the media who dare not to kiss the ring. But when you surround yourself and when you do this kind of stuff like the YouTube channel where they're constantly pushing out videos and, doing these interviews in very friendly situations with very friendly people, some of them who are alumni of CU Boulder, I think it starts to affect you to where anything that you perceive as negative, now you feel like you have the ability, well, I have enough people on my side of things, I'll just shut you down. He could not have handled that more poorly than he did. And this doesn't mean you need to rethink everything. His team, still seems very close-knit. He's making them do the right things, like their GPA. They just talked the other day about how high the team GPA is. Like, I believe that Deion Sanders is about a lot of really good things, and he is a good mentor to a lot of his players. But that can be true while at the same time, this could be very off-putting in a very low stakes, like this isn't after a tough game or anything like that. Like, this is just a full, hey, let's get together. Let's get some thoughts together, ramp up to the season. And he's going at two different media members. The one thing that I will say that could be indicative, because a lot of people have taken this obviously to the extreme. I don't want to go quite the extreme. I still think Deion Sanders can be successful in Boulder. I'm not going to go and change all that. But you hear that, and then you think about when things weren't so favorable during the season. Right? Because it's an adverse reaction and not, I think, a correct reaction towards what's going on, some of the media coverage he's getting. I don't think it's the right tactic for Deion Sanders to take. But isn't it somewhat indicative of the way that his first season in Boulder went? What happened when things were not going amazingly well? When everybody wasn't singing his praises? When things kind of took a little bit of a negative turn, right? Started losing a couple of games, then they lost a couple more, then they lost a couple more, then coaches got demoted. It looked like the Buffs panicked a little bit, that Deion Sanders panicked a little bit and maybe made some rash decisions along the way in order to reel back in a season that was going off the rails. Then you have that press conference on Friday, and you say, well, maybe some of the coverage isn't as glowing as it was a year ago. Maybe he's not the knight in shining armor for college football anymore. Like, some reality set in that this is going to be a difficult job and a long slog, and it may or may not work out. And sure, maybe some of the coverage has gone vitriolic, but I'm sorry. Like, as much as I like to puff up Colorado media, like, when it comes to the college football landscape, Denver media is about the softest that you're going to get. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just a different, like, for instance, ask Dabo Swinney what goes on in his neck of the woods, what he faces. when things get bad at Clemson. Like, this is not a diehard college football state. Okay? Even with all three of these major programs that we have doing well, a lot of reasons for optimism around all three. Like, these coaches aren't taken to task and being confronted and having things said about them that they're, and I know Deion is getting some of it from the national media, but the national media is not in that room. And it looks like if you aren't just focusing on all the good and you aren't a believer in what Deion Sanders is doing, and you may raise some questions, that you would be at the risk of having your access cut off. What's to keep him from reading some other article and then shutting down? Like, what if NBCSports.com writes something? Does that mean the NBC affiliate in Denver doesn't get to ask questions anymore? That was bad. There's no way to spin that. There's no way to defend it. That was bad. And you just wonder if this guy wants to get a major college football. I'll tell you one thing. That display that he had will not fly in Tuscaloosa. Will not fly in Clemson. Will not fly at Auburn. Will not fly in Athens, Georgia. They will destroy him over that. Wants to be big time college football. Yeah, the negative side kind of comes along with it. He could not have handled that more poorly than he did. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts if you had a chance to see it. Just ask him questions about Aflac and you'll be fine. 719-247-1313. Your thoughts on all the day's topics next. I don't know about your kids, but my kids are shortly going back to school, which means that the summer is drawing to a close in many ways, which is not great. But then you're like, well, it's not so bad when you realize that this time of year also brings forth the Colorado State Fair in Pueblo. And it's a must with my sons. They absolutely love it. The carnival and the rides that are at that carnival, they absolutely love, but all the food, the funnel cakes, all the free attractions too, like you could stretch your buck a little bit further with all the free stuff that they have to do, but if you're in a position to spend a few bucks, how about this concert lineup that they got in Pueblo? Spinners and the Commodores, Ludacris, Trace Atkins, the Goo Goo Dolls, and more. Those are just the ones that I'm really focused on. But there are many more. You could plan your visit for, maybe I should tell you the dates, August 23rd through September 2nd. Plan your visit at coloradostatefair.com. Let's get into a couple of your texts. A lot going on today with the end of the Olympics and Bo Nix's debut and Deion Sanders and what he had to say on Friday. So let's go here. Steve G. On Bo Nix, there's going to be rookie mistakes, but if he did more good than harm, be happy knowing that he is picking up the offense, and that's all you want. And I think that's probably a reasonable bar going into the game. Right? I was talking to somebody earlier today, and he said that one of the things that he put forward for Bo Nix, he wanted to see Bo Nix get the team in and out of the huddle and to the line without any delay of game penalties. Like, think about what Russell Wilson has done to the standard of quarterbacking with this organization. That has to be stated. That should be, like, at the very least, that shouldn't be like something that you judge Bo Nix on. That should be just a given. Get the play in, get to the line, snap the ball. But Russell Wilson had a lot of problems doing that. Bo Nix didn't. Jarrett Stidham didn't. Zach Wilson didn't. But I think more than anything else, if you could just summarize it in a brief way, which is what summarizing, I am told, is. Look like you belong. Don't be running around and looking lost out there. Don't be airmailing guys or, bouncing throws into guys repeatedly. And don't be taking sacks. Get rid of the ball. Just do that. But Bo Nix looked like he belonged, and you see it. You see the vision with Sean Payton. And understand that even if the ceiling isn't ridiculously high for Bo Nix as opposed to a Jaden Daniels or a Caleb Williams, who, by the way, it's funny, every team with the rookie quarterback is going absolutely bananas today. Have you noticed that? Bears fans, Commanders fans, Vikings fans, Falcon fans. Falcon fans are actually the only ones upset. And the reason for that is because they're upset that Michael Penix doesn't get to start. So Bo Nix was in the mix with those guys. But at the same time, I do think when you look at all of those performances, I think he stood out. All of them looked like they belonged. There wasn't one of these rookie quarterbacks that looked like a hot mess. But Bo Nix may have outplayed all of them. And a big reason why was because Sean Payton kept him out there. Right? After that initial couple of throws and you had the fumbled snap, but he looked comfortable and he just kept leading the Broncos down the field, and they get the 3 before the half. They come out of the second half and they move the ball. Like, I don't just think that Bo Nix fit into every one of his rookie class peers. I think he stood out. I think it's really him and Caleb Williams stood out in their performances. So I think he did more than just meet the minimum requirement. But again, it makes the Green Bay game all the more fascinating because he has to follow it up. He has to follow it up against better competition. But it's not, regiment. It's not this thing and then it's the next thing. They bleed into one another. The performances that Bo Nix has had in practice that has caused Zach Wilson to get taken out of the first quarterback rotation and all this kind of stuff, it bleeds into Sunday. And then what he did on Sunday is now going to bleed over into this Sunday against Green Bay. And the expectations are not going to be low. It's not going to be the bare minimum that Bo Nix is expected to have. And we're crescendoing towards the beginning of the season in this, right? He does well in practice. Now he does even better in the game. And now he's going to be expected to do even better against Green Bay. Now, if he struggles a little bit more, it's not let's throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that forget everything I said. Bo Nix is terrible. But there will be a level of disappointment given that the expectation is that he just keeps getting better. Steve texted in his top 5 list of the best Olympic moments. Kristen Faulkner winning gold. That was one of the one of the honorable mentions that I had. That was one of those. I would say it was, would calling it Cole Hawker on a bike be the correct way to put it? Like we sometimes remember those shocking upsets, and we don't get them as much as you would think. We don't. I mean, Simone Biles, the only person that kept Simone Biles from winning multiple gold medals in Tokyo was Simone Biles. Right? And that's why she wasn't on my list. It's not because what she did wasn't impressive. I was all about what they called the redemption tour for this gymnastics team. I thought it was great. But if I'm being honest, it was a tad expected. I mean, the other ones I had on this list, Cole Hawkner, not expected. For these games, for that gold medal game to come down to what Steph had to do, that wasn't expected. So I think a lot of the moments that are going to be remembered are the ones that maybe we didn't expect to see going in. And with Simone Biles, we did expect greatness. Rest of his list, Gabby Thomas winning gold. It was Thomas, Biles, and Tori Husk who were the most decorated gold medalists of the games. each of them winning 3. Noah Lyles winning gold, that photo finish where it was called incorrectly. That one certainly is up there. Bobby Fink winning gold in the pool, and London Duplantis setting a world record. So that's Armand Duplantis. He did correct himself. So that was his list. Again, my list real quick, and then we can talk more about it next hour. Let me get my list up. At number 5, this was a selfish one because I nerded out over fencing. It was Lee Kiefer going against Lauren Scruggs in the women's foil final. I had at number 4, Cole Hawker upsetting both the reigning Olympic champion and world champion in the 1,500 meters. Katie Ledecky dominating in the 1,500 meters where she was just chilling and about ready to – she could have gone out of the pool, changed into her street clothes, and left the arena by the time the next closest swimmer finished that race. Mallory Swanson, Colorado's own, of course, scoring what proved to be the gold medal winning goal on Saturday against Brazil. And then number 1 was Steph's shot, the golden dagger, as Noah Eagle called it, against France in the gold medal game. Love to get your list or just the moment that's going to stick out from these Olympics for you. 719-247-1313. We'll hit the 3 stories that are driving the show coming up after the top of the hour, which is coming up shortly here on Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome into a Monday edition of Drive Time Sports. Ryan Kaufman with you, and I am so happy you've made it back. Was in the city of brotherly love with the boys and had a great time, but now refreshed, ready to rock as football season is upon us. And I do appreciate you listening, whether it's on your radio, online at extrasports1300.com, or on the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for All. And it is not just an app where you can listen to this show or any of your other favorites. Notice I said other favorites and not your favorites, because this show is the given, right? Even if it's your favorite to hate listen to. There may be other shows that you can enjoy, and you can listen to all of them on the new Extra Sports 1300 app, sponsored by Diversus Health. But you can also get the latest in Colorado sports news. Check out our social media feeds, even interact with this show via that app. So it's worth the price to download, which is last time I checked, and yep, still $0, still free. 719-247-1313 is both the text and the phone line if you would like to have your say on any of the day's top topics. I don't know, like maybe one or all of these three stories that are driving the show. All right, story number one. Knicks making BOlievers out of people.
It was a good day. I thought we ran the ball efficiently, made some good plays in the past game, converted some third downs, got points when we needed to. It was a good job, going into half with points and then coming out with points. Felt like that was a good point in the game. But overall, felt like we did a good job. A huge team win.
And I sigh not because of Bo Nix, but the BOlievers thing. Like, I don't like it. I don't like when it was Beliebers. And I'm a huge Justin Bieber fan. Never identified as a believer. I don't like it. But, yeah, he certainly turned some heads with that performance yesterday against the Indianapolis Colts. 15 of 21, 125 yards and a touchdown. And within that box score, I think is the most consequential thing about Bo Nix's preseason debut. He threw 21 passes. Going back, Drew Lock in his debut had 11. Paxton Lynch had 7. Bo Nix throwing 21 passes is the very essence of this Bo Nix, Sean Payton relationship and this charade that is the Broncos quarterback competition. Sean Payton trusts him. Sean Payton is doing everything to get him ready for the start of the season in Seattle. He let him throw the ball 21 times. I thought he was done once they kicked the field goal, and I was like, that's weird that they didn't at least let him try to throw a touchdown on his last pass of the game. Well, turns out it wasn't, because he was coming back out. They were treating that like a real game situation. We want the points before the half, come out and score to start the second half, and Bo Nix was the guy at the helm in both of those moments. If you can't look at what Bo Nix did yesterday or what Sean Payton allowed him to do yesterday and say he's going to be the starter, then I just don't know what other evidence you need. I'm out. I can't convince you anymore. Sean Payton's going to start this guy. He's the guy. He's QB1. Call it what you want. He is him. Now, is he him, like all in caps? That remains to be seen. Right now, it's about his floor. Is his floor high enough that Sean Payton in good conscience can throw him out there week one? I don't. And then is it good enough that the Broncos are going to exceed these very low expectations that many people have around them? The first question, Bo Nix has answered emphatically in the affirmative. And it's not that Zach Wilson or Jared Stidham played poorly. I think Bo Nix did far more than many expected him to do, because he played more. But the most important part of what he did on Sunday was not the scoring drives, was not the third down conversions. It was that he didn't get sacked. That box score, if there was a sack in it, I would have mentioned it. There wasn't. The thing that drove Sean Payton up the wall about the last guy was the sacks that he took. Bo Nix got rid of the football before he was sacked. And that is the entire premise of what Sean Payton is trying to do with his quarterbacks in Denver. Don't get sacked. Get rid of the football where I tell you to, and you will be fine. And Bo Nix is more than willing to do all of that. And that's why he's going to be the starter. But you watch Bo Nix and everything is up the field. Remember when Russell Wilson would turn his back to the offensive line? Like he'd run in a circle? And how Sean Payton would nearly pass out from rage on the sideline when he'd do that stuff? Everything with Bo Nix was forward, up the field, everything. His eyes, even when he ran, which was kind of, I think for some people, a little nice surprise, is that Bo Nix can move a little bit. I mean, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he can move a little bit. But he gives the impression, because he's looking upfield, that he can still get rid of the ball. When Russell Wilson wanted to run, everybody and their sister in the stadium knew he was running. He tucked that ball. He put his head down. He was gone. So maybe it's not even Paxton Lynch and Drew Lock that I need to be comparing Bo Nix to. It's Russell Wilson. And by the way, he looked much better in his preseason debut than Russell Wilson did in either of his preseason debuts. The first one with Hackett and the second one with Sean Payton. Gold star, A grade, whatever, pass instead of fail, satisfactory instead of unsatisfactory. Bo Nix deserves whatever grade. Good grade that you give him. Because he was good. And I will not rain on the parade of Broncos fans who want to get a little bit carried away. Just know that you might be, but I'm not going to tell you that. Story number 2 is not what the U.S. did in the gold medal game. Although, in fairness, I probably should. But it's what happened after the semifinal that has more local interest. Kevin Durant taking to social media, as he tends to do, to right all the wrongs of the social media world. And he's having about as good of a job of doing it as Elon Musk is. But he said, because as you might imagine, even if you're not on social media, you can understand, because maybe you were feeling a little conflicted during the semifinal against Serbia as well, there were many Nuggets fans who were on social media talking about how in the world can anybody say that Nikola Jokic is not the best player in the world after watching him nearly defeat Team USA. So Kevin Durant butted in. Nobody was even talking to Kevin Durant, by the way. Said, to all you Nuggets fans, no one gives an F who y'all lames believe is the best player in the league. Players got major respect for Yoke. We don't worship him like y'all do, but most are in awe of his brilliance. Trolling you cornballs for rooting against us is a part of the game. Deal with it. And that last part is actually not what I'm pushing back against. Like, you have every right to be like, we beat your guy. That's fine. That's all in good fun. That's a part of winning and losing in sports. The worship and nobody gives a bleep what y'all lames believe is the best player in the league. I got news for you, Kevin Durant. We don't care who you think is the best player in the league because, again, and I cannot emphasize this enough, we're not talking to you. We're talking to Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith and Sixers fans and, a Laker fan here and there. This is not about you, Kevin Durant. This isn't even about Team USA. This is about this 4-year fight that Nuggets fans have been in to make people understand how good this guy is. And he just keeps showing over and over again that he is the best player in the world. And then Stephen A. Smith will jump on a podcast and be like, if Joel Embiid was healthy, I'd take Joel Embiid. It's about that fight that Nuggets fans have been having for 4 years for Nikola Jokic to be acknowledged for what he is. And Nikola Jokic gave these fans their only championship and stood for everything that you love about athletes, which coincidentally is something that Kevin Durant knows little about, which is loyalty. Nikola Jokic, after the Nuggets were burned by the last star, he stepped in, and every step of the way, even though he was much better than everyone around him, he was ready to win a title. The Denver Nuggets were not, and yet at every turn, he talked about how he wanted to stay in Denver. He wanted to be a Nugget. We've never heard anybody say that before. Who in the right mind would want to be a Denver Nugget? Nobody. Nikola Jokic said those words. And he became, add him to the medal tally. Colorado athletes should get an additional bronze because he's a Coloradan. There are forces that are so beyond Kevin Durant's understanding because he hasn't stayed with the team long enough for them to love him. And he always burns his bridges on the way out. Kevin Durant is the antithesis of what Nikola Jokic is. And you're on a team with LeBron James and Joel Embiid, yeah, I'm sorry. It's going to be very difficult for Nuggets fans for one game to put aside all the love they have for Nikola Jokic, who grew up in Colorado for all intents and purposes, committed to Colorado, brought a championship to Colorado, going against you three bums who represent, in many people's minds, all that is wrong with NBA basketball. Yeah, we're going to be a little conflicted. I don't look at it as I was rooting for Serbia. I was blown away by what Steph Curry did. I was happy that Team USA won that game. It was a win-win. It really was. If Jokic won, that would be amazing because Colorado loves Nikola Jokic. And we know how much it means to him to represent his country. But it's also totally cool if Team USA wins. I don't think as many people were actually rooting against Team USA as Kevin Durant wants to make it seem like. For Serbia and for Nikola Jokic is not the same as against Team USA. Although you have certainly given us your the reasons, Kevin Durant. Not about you. And no one was talking to you. I am glad that Team USA won, and I marvel at what Steph Curry did. But the love that this state has for Nikola Jokic is so much deeper. And I'm sorry, and I hate to be on the same side of an argument as Dave Portnoy, but he was right. He's taking up the mantle for Jason Tatum, but he's saying the same thing. We care so much more about the NBA and our NBA team than we do Team USA. It's just the fact of the matter. I don't think it's anti-America. I don't think it's unpatriotic or treasonous. It's just that we spend way more time with our NBA team. We're way more invested. And those bonds, those ties, that fandom, that affinity, it's hard to wipe away for just 2 weeks. Especially when three of the most preeminent players on Team USA are villains in the NBA. Saying we have to put aside the love for Nikola Jokic to root for Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James, I'm sorry. That is difficult. And Kevin Durant just doesn't understand. Speaking of not understanding, here's story number 3.
Eric Christensen with CBS Sports Colorado.
CBS,
Tyler,
I'm not doing nothing with CBS. Next question.
Joe Rigo, Mile
Ain't
High
got nothing to
Sports
do with
Radio.
you. It's above that. Ain't got nothing to do with you. I got love for you. I appreciate you, respect you. Ain't got nothing to do with you. They know what they did.
I'm here in Denver, not national.
You are who you are. CBS is CBS.
All right.
Joe
Ain't got
Rigo,
nothing
Mile
to
High
do with
Sports.
you. I respect you. That's why I told you that. I'm looking you in the eye as a man. I respect you. I got love for you. But what they did was foul.
Deion Sanders does not respect him, does not have love for him, does not understand the difference between CBS 4 and CBSSports.com. And in fact, if he did, he would understand that what he was doing on Friday was utterly ridiculous. The television station airs his coach's show. They are as loyal devotees to the religion of Coach Prime as any media outlet in this state. And he's shutting them down because of something that CBSSports.com did. Here's a little insight. You may have noticed that we've had CBS sports programming. You know that I am not an employee of CBS Sports, right? That what happens with Jim Rome and Maggie and Perloff and stuff like that's different. I'm not a part of that. We just happen to be on the same station because of corporate partnerships. CBS Sports is an offshoot of I think it's Viacom. Isn't that the company? It doesn't matter. The point is that Deion Sanders, and I think it's because of what they reported on Shiloh in his bankruptcy case. That's what I think it is, although he wasn't sure. He says they know what they did, and everyone went, wait. They went to CBSSports.com, and they're like, is it because Deion Sanders was ranked near the bottom of Big 12 coaches? I think it was about Shiloh, but we don't know. But what I see going on here with Deion Sanders, and he went after Sean Keeler of the Denver Post as well. That one's not as big of a deal. But that came after the CBS thing. What I think is that Deion Sanders is surrounded by so many people and media outlets that wouldn't dare say anything negative. And I'm not going to call them out. Everybody has their own niche within the sports ecosystem. Okay? I'm not trying to disparage those. I'm just saying who they are. And they will fight you on social media, and they are militant, and they will support everything that Deion Sanders does. And that's fine. Right? It's also fine that CU football has its own YouTube account, and Deion Sanders Jr. Shoots a lot of films where they kind of push out their own message. I think that's totally fine. A lot of people have that. Today, it's all good. It's all fine. Where you cross the line is that if there's anybody that says anything critical about you or is loosely affiliated through corporate to be affiliated with someone that has said something that you don't like, they don't get to ask you questions anymore. That's not okay. Everybody has their own niche within the Coach Prime ecosystem. And there are blogs that will write only nice things about them. And that's fine. And people want that, and that's great. But there are also people whose job it is to report whether the news is good or bad for CU. There are also people who can look at what's going on at CU and maybe not think that it's all awesome and the greatest thing to ever happen. There's room for all of them. And it's all of what makes Deion Sanders this larger than life figure is that so many people talk about him like this. It's not okay to shut down media like he did. And he wants to ask, where does CBS come off being able to do that? Where does Deion Sanders coming off the season that he came off of in a place to be able to do that? I think that he is so used to being insulated and being able to have all these people that are saying awesome, glowing things about his program that it really bothers him more than it should if somebody says something negative. I'm not saying it shouldn't bother him. I'm just saying it shouldn't bother him to the point where he looks as bad as he did in that press conference. And it makes you wonder, in the face of some adversity, when things get tough, what happened during the season? Things got really bad. Wasn't a conclusion I was ready to draw until I heard him. I'm like, my goodness. Now there seems to be a pattern emerging that he doesn't deal well with what he calls negativity. Wants to be at the top of this profession, doesn't he? Maybe make your point about CBSSports.com and then answer the producer for the television station with your coach's show on it. Understand the difference. Understand he has nothing to do with it. Make your point, get on your soapbox, and then answer the man's question. Terrible look from Deion Sanders. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. You know, it's what also is bad, but like in a real life way and not in a sports way. Dealing with arthritic joint pain. Right? If you've been dealing with it, it's probably kept you from doing the things that you love during this summer, which is a lot in these parts. There are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief through QC Kinetics. You may have been told surgery, drugs, pain pills, that's your only option. It's not. It's not. These are cutting edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. They've helped tens of thousands of people across this country, many of them right here in our backyard because they are located right here, Colorado, or like up there. Like I'm literally pointing in their direction, just up the road. Learn how QC Kinetics can treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative, cellular treatments for your achy joints. Call for a free consultation right now, 719-347-1988, or when it's safe to do so, call 719-347-1988. QC Kinetics, the future of medicine, 719-347-1988. I am not. I was impressed with Bo Nix. He exceeded my expectation, but he was in the pole position this entire time. For me, Jared Stidham was always going to be the backup. Still in that situation. And I think you saw a lot of Zach Wilson. And I think you'll see more of him on Sunday, because I think the name of the game, now that Bo Nix has kind of moved past the, even if Jared Stidham somehow becomes the starter, I think that Sean Payton is totally fine with Bo Nix being that proverbial one play away from going into the game. I can at least say that with the utmost confidence, even though I also say Bo Nix will be the starter week 1 with the utmost confidence. Zach Wilson now becomes a quarterback that Sean Payton will try and show off. And I think it started a little bit yesterday. I think he knows that carrying 3 quarterbacks is a little unorthodox. Teams don't normally do it. I'm not saying that Sean Payton is completely opposed to the idea, because he is trying to find the right 53. But it would be, I think, kind of weird that the Broncos have 3 quarterbacks, especially if Bo Nix continues to trend in the direction he's trending in. I think that Sean Payton was showcasing Zach Wilson. And I think he'll do more of it against the Packers on Sunday. I think they're trying to trade him. That's not insider knowledge. That's just my read on the whole thing from where I'm standing. I think Sean Payton got a little enamored with being able to reclamate the career of Zach Wilson. And then the draft happened, and then he kind of lost interest, didn't want to play with Zach Wilson anymore. And now it's like, oh, we got like money that we're on the hook for if we cut Stidham or if we cut Zach Wilson. And now we have one too many quarterbacks. So let's try to show off Zach Wilson. I think the less time that Jared Stidham plays, the better. I really do, because I think that means Sean Payton knows what he has in him, and he doesn't have to decide anything. At the very least, he's trying to push Zach Wilson, see a bunch of Zach Wilson to see, okay, can I really trust him to be my backup quarterback? But I think more so than that, he's trying to work his Sean Payton voodoo to make any quarterback look decent and try to get someone to bite on trading for Zach Wilson. Even though they don't, these other teams don't have Sean Payton, they also can say without equivocation, they are not the New York Jets. And so maybe there's a middle ground between what Sean Payton can get out of Zach Wilson and what the Jets got out of Zach Wilson. And we're okay with that being the ground we live in for our backup quarterback. I think this entire time it's been get Bo Nix ready. And in case of emergency that he's not ready, break glass, start Jared Stidham. And it's figure out what to do with Zach Wilson. We'll talk more as the week progresses, using some aid from Sean Payton on how this is all going to shake out, because he did say the quarterback rotation would change going into Sunday.
All of that, those guys they're doing a good job of handling the competition. They really are. And they're taking advantage of the reps they're getting when they're in. And they're focused on like putting their best stuff together on tape when they're in the game, all 3 of them. And so, those numbers will unfold a little differently next weekend. We'll see, on Sunday at home.
I think Zach Wilson's auditioning for other teams. As much as he was probably doing that in filling in for Aaron Rodgers, I think he's even more so doing it here. And I think Sean Payton is going to do everything he can to try and get somebody to take Zach Wilson because Bo Nix keeps being what Sean Payton wants him to be, and he knows what Jarrett Stidham is. What you want from a backup quarterback, right? Not going to wow you, but not going to be awful. Can maintain, hold down the fort, whatever metaphor you want to use. He knows that he can get that with Jarrett Stidham. That's why he paid him the money he paid him to back up Russell Wilson. But I don't know that you could pick apart anything that any of these three quarterbacks did and say, that guy, I think it's just circumstances. It's not because of the way Zach Wilson has played necessarily, although people out of training camp will tell you that Zach Wilson most consistently was third in terms of how good these three quarterbacks looked. So maybe a healthy dose of Zach Wilson on Sunday. It will be very interesting to see how much more time Bo Nix gets because he got way more time than I thought he would against Indianapolis. Does that continue, or does Sean go, I've seen everything I need to see? You get 2 series. 719-247-1313. Last call for your text on this Monday. Of course, many of these same topics will continue throughout the week. I do feel like one day is not enough to really unpack everything we saw in Paris. And I can already see the conversation when it comes to Steph Curry and LeBron and this Team USA, that story is going to hang around for a little bit. So we'll get into that. We got all week. In the meantime, I want to let you know that if you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, gaining weight, maybe noticing some loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Don't wait to find out. Find out. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. It's a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get results back in about 25 minutes. They're not your typical doctor's office. Their physicians specialize in this kind of thing, and they've been doing it for years, and they offer a variety of different treatment options, including for established patients, physician-monitored self-inject treatments that are shipped directly to your home. Get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare. The Olympics had a great ending. If you are a fan of Team USA, it was a little too close for comfort, but both the men's and women's basketball teams got past France in their respective gold medal games. Can you imagine the discourse had the women lost? The expectations were higher for them than they were the men. We didn't even think about the possibility that the women would lose at any point. Credit to France. They gave them everything they could handle. And then, of course, Steph Curry doing what Steph Curry did, Mallory Swanson doing what she did, and the U.S. tying China with 40 gold medals. But they technically win the gold medal count because the tiebreaker is total medals. So the U.S. wins the Olympics. That is the headline. But there was a bit of unfortunate news that today has reached a resolution, and it's not one that you would have liked. So Jordan Chiles, the gymnast for the U.S., who was awarded bronze because of a alteration of the difficulty score. Well, then it was like reversed, and they said, no, you didn't get the challenge in early enough. You got to get it in within a minute of us making a ruling. So now we're taking away the bronze medal. It is it was just like a bizarre way for the gymnastics portion of the Olympics to finish. And today, USA Gymnastics put out a statement that they're not reversing their decision. Even though they reversed their decision in the first place, they're not reversing the reversal of the decision, and Jordan Chiles will not get her bronze medal, which is disappointing, but thankfully that wasn't her only medal. Yeah, seems like USA Gymnastics did what they were supposed to do. Didn't work out for them. So a bit of controversy there at the end of the Olympics. And I'm not trying to be controversial here with this next take. I still don't like the Broncos uniforms. Can I get that, slide that in here at the end? First of all, the 5280 thing has got to go. There's no way anyone thinks that's cool. No way. I think that teams in Denver put it on there because they think people think it's cool. It's not. It's not. And it sticks out. It's like it distracts the eye. That's got to go immediately. That's a non-negotiable. But like I need, and I get they're not for me, they're for you. You're buying their merchandise, you're a fan. You tell me, and maybe we'll pick up this conversation tomorrow. I don't like the all whites. There's not enough going on. It just like they're too generic. When you have a color like orange that is not, I guess in football, there's a few teams that use orange. It's like use that to your advantage. Be identifiable. Stand out. I don't like it. I don't like it. And if Bo Nix hits and the Broncos start winning games, then maybe they'll turn into the greatest uniform combination in the history of Broncos uniform combinations. I watched it. I'm like, I'm going to see it in action. I'm going to give it a fair shake. I watched it. I'm like, the 5280 thing, I can't not see it. And I need more. Or throw orange pants, blue pants. Do something. Didn't like it. But, Broncos look pretty good in them, playing in them. It just didn't look good, despite, I guess is the way I would put it, despite how mid they looked on the field. They actually played exceptionally well. It's a testament to Sean Payton, I'm sure. Now, we could pick up that conversation tomorrow. I do want to get in a word for QC Kinetics before I go, because I think it's important. I do. Because they're offering a different way to deal with that arthritic joint pain you might be having, because pain pills, drugs, surgery, we all know the drawbacks of those things and how ineffective they can be. Well, there are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief, and QC Kinetics is leading the way in this, treating tens of thousands of patients across this country. They're the nation's leader, in fact, in advanced regenerative medicine. They are cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know steroid surgery, pain pills, I mentioned them earlier, no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. This is regenerative, restorative, cellular treatments for your achy joints. Call for a free consultation now, 719-347-1988, 719-347-1988. This is the future of medicine, 719-347-1988. It's been my distinct honor and pleasure to serve you on this Monday. I look forward to reconvening at 3 o'clock tomorrow to go over more of this and maybe some new stuff as well. Night is young. We'll see what happens. Talk to you tomorrow.